Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Keeping Up with the Seattle Kraken. Seattle's no, the Seattle Kraken weekly show on Circling Seattle Sports here. Charles Hamaker here with you with Jayd Serdy. We are not with Silvia this week. Sylvia is unable to join us, so we will continue on. But obviously, it's always nice when we have everyone, but unfortunately not always something that's realistic when we do a show with multiple people, let alone the different number of shows we do. There will be scheduling conflicts. So, um, it's a weird week. It's a weird week, but have we ever known peace, or any sort of normality with the Seattle Kraken team over the course of their existence, let alone especially this year? And I could say the same for the fact that they're playing a 1 o'clock game tomorrow, um, but maybe more so 1 o'clock games in two of their next three. Just because tomorrow I can get with the holiday, but Saturday I don't understand why we're playing at 1 o'clock. um, we look at this past week and we record the show after the Detroit game last Sunday. So not talking about that. Your past three games, right? Two games in the road trip. You beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in kind of wild form. Christian Jari gets essentially the axe the next day. Um, and it wasn't just Seattle. Everything I'd heard about it via other podcasts or read about was that he allowed the most goals on the first shot, second shot. Like he's having a horrible year. Um, so that happens. You do that to Pittsburgh. You put the Penguins in the torture chamber somehow. You lose a really tight one to the Winnipeg Jets on the road, which incredibly tough team. I mean, they've been a wagon. Um, I would say they could be a contender, but I just worry about them burning Connor Hellebuck out in the regular season before we get to the postseason, right? Like whenever we do the goalie matchup posts and I see that many games, I'm like, wow, they're riding the hell out of you. But they played a really good game. They played a tight one. They held this Winnipeg team that's been again a wagon all season to just one goal for about 59 seconds. 59 seconds, 59 minutes. And then the Jets get a late one, an absolute heartbreaker. Seattle played to at least deserve a point in that one. And I think I tweeted about it afterwards, like for them to push the Jets to overtime in Seattle, the first time that they played, and then to lose to them by a goal in the final 30 or so seconds on the road in Winnipeg. Uh, there's no participation trophy. You don't get to say, "Oh, here's your little medal because you played pretty well but didn't get the win." Like that's not a thing. Um, but I don't know. It shows the frustration with this team, right? As we've talked about, whether it's on this show or in person or via text, right? That they can go and play this well against the best team, or at least standings points wise, the best team in the league. And then to start this stretch of nine home games in their next 10 contests, they beat the Los Angeles Kings. They score the first goal. Jaden Schwartz decides, wait, I'm goaded, and scores twice in the first period. Um, they they do something where they force the Kings to chase the game. And the Kings aren't built to really chase the game. They're built to defend a lead, and they don't get that. So um no, to beat the Penguins, who were kind of trying to like figure themselves out and push themselves, into a playoff spot or at least into a better one. I don't think they're in one. I don't think they're in one. I'm gonna look just so I don't make myself look stupid. Which happens more than you think. And people, yeah, no, they're about 5 points out from one. So I mean, they're still in it, which most of the NHL is in it still. You battle the top team in the league to through 59 minutes, and to beat a Kings team that's at near the top of the Pacific. Um, how do you reflect on this past week in games, the past three at least? Because I know we've talked to death about the inconsistencies, right? But I mean, to you where you should have had points in three straight games and to win two of your last three. I mean, it's a small step, and we've talked all the time about needing to see it continue, and that starts on Monday against the Sabres,
Hmm.
right? But I don't know. Is it how do you feel about the past week?
I see the past week as kind of a stepping stone. I see it a little bit more as a positive rather than a negative. There have been, there was a couple losses, but for the most part, I feel like the team kind of showed up with the way that we, the fans, just in general have expected them to. And I've been a little bit more like in awe with them, if that makes sense. Like a little bit more like, okay, yeah, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, rather than prior to this week where it was you're just failing and failing and failing and you're not doing anything that you're supposed to be doing and nothing is working. I've seen it a little bit more as a positive over the past week.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that, like, you said the word stepping stone, right?
Hmm.
Words. Um, the starts have been an issue for them, right? Where they dig themselves a hole and you hear post game, we weren't ready, we didn't come out
Yep.
ready, which as I said, I don't know if it was last show, I've said it on the show before, where if you continue to tell me the issue, but you aren't addressing it, it means nothing to me. And
The
that's
first
when
20 were so hard we didn't come out the way that we should have, or the first 20 were so hard we should have been more ready than we were. That
can't keep
doesn't mean
happening.
anything at all to me.
If you don't change it, at
Yep.
least. If you say that, and then for the next 20 games, you actually start, it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
20, but you show tangible progress. And you look at these past three games, um, and you scored the first goal. Did they score on Winnipeg? I'm pretty sure they did. Yes, because then Winnipeg got a power play goal. That's right.
Yep.
You scored the first three goal of the last three games. The shorty from Chandler Stevenson in Pittsburgh, which is funny to say, that's their first shorthanded goal of the season. Um, they get on the board first in Winnipeg and they take the lead into the intermission in Winnipeg, which I'm like, what the hell are we watching? As Matty Beniers gets that 17-10-84 line, which we are going to talk about next, which
Hmm.
Jayd is on her. I don't know what box you want to stand on, Apple box, whatever box, peach box. I don't remember the saying. Um,
Soapbox.
soapbox, thank you.
Not really
I
a
don't know.
soapbox though. It's a stand
Um,
box.
There you go. Yeah. And we'll get to that in a minute, but that relates to this next game as well, where Jaden Schwartz scores the opening goal and just kind of whips a shot through a Kings. He's got like essentially a screen in his way to screen Darcy Kemper and just rips it. I think it was 30 seconds in or so. First shot, Jaden Schwartz scores. Like they've been
28. I think it
20.
was
Was it just
28 or 28. 28 or
28?
20.
28. Yep. Nice call. There you go. Um, to just whip that in. Like they've given up an answer. Um,
Hmm.
in Pittsburgh and in again the Kings game last night. We record these on Sunday nights. Um, like they do that, but to get on the board first is nice because you aren't trailing. It would be great to get the big second goal and kind of establish an actual lead and not just something that can be equalized in the snap of a finger. But that to me is encouraging, at least in that regard. Like in terms of trend upwards, I don't know if I'd call the Pittsburgh game a trend upwards because again they had to come back, right? And we've talked about the multi-goal comebacks already, which they did last week in Buffalo. There's evidence there. The obviously the Vancouver game in Vancouver, um, but in Winnipeg to score first to take that intermission. Like you give up a power play goal, yes, you shouldn't be taking penalties against one of the best power plays in the league. Um, I don't know if they're top, but they're pretty good. Um, you know, to do that, to play them tight, to show better defensive structure, to me is a big deal as well because they just look like a mess for so many of those games. After the break, even though they had the comebacks and stuff, they still were a mess defensively, whether that was in front of Joey or in front of Philbug. Like it was evident, and so to see that structure is nice. Like the amount of pride I had talking about how, their defensive structure, they clogged the middle of the ice, they kept everything the perimeter in that Florida game and against Boston. Like it was so nice and so wonderful. And then they just went and just forgot all of that for the next stretch of games, which was terrible. Um, you know, like there are yeah, top Winnipeg does have the top power play in the league by 3%. Yeah. And then in the Kings game, whereas the Kings, we talked about this pre-game, and I talked to several people on the press bridge about it before the game. Like the Jets, not the Jets, the Kings had allowed 6 goals against in their last 6 games coming into that one. In terms of goals per game in the league this year, they're at the top of that, allowing the least amount. So like they're a good defensive team. They've been a good defensive team for a while. I mean, you think about the Kings, you think about the 1-3-1 clog. They're just so annoying to play against.
Yep.
Um, like it's just wild to think about because they've had like a turnstile in goal. They bring in Kemper like the years before they had Kim Talbot. Like they've been scrambling at the goalie position since Jonathan Quick uh is like crumbled and then got traded and now or as a Ranger he's not that bad. So I don't know, to see them start well in all 3 games and then to see better consistent play in the Jets and Kings game is encouraging to me, but it does not matter unless you come out and show it against Buffalo on Monday. Buffalo,
Hmm.
they rattled off this win streak, but you saw in the win against the Sabres on Saturday of what is it? A week ago or two. Yeah, a week ago from now. Prior to now. You can beat them by just playing a good 20 minutes, but you shouldn't do that. That's not healthy, it's not sustainable. You don't want to bank on it. You don't want to go in there, they give up 3 goals in the first period, say, okay, we can come back and we can fix it in the second. Because that's just not smart,
A
I
big problem with that with the Kraken is that they like to play 20, 40 minutes. They don't always like to play the full 60.
no.
So
It's just not
even giving
sustainable.
another team, you know, more than giving another team more than 20 minutes, giving another team more than 10 minutes is just not sustainable for them.
Like they have to be locked in all the way. Um,
Hmm.
and it's like obviously every game, but to do so because this next stretch here, you play the Sabres, which ideally you should beat. Play the Capitals, and that's another game. That's a team that was a few days ago tied in points with the Jets for the top team in the league. I'm gonna check this now to see where we're at in the league. No, the Capitals have the most points now. Yeah, at 67. And they've played a game less than the Jets. Wow, fascinating. Okay. Um, oh, but they've gone to overtime. Okay, I see where the points stack up. I see it. Okay. Um, so yeah, you play two of the top teams in the league in a span of 4 games there, which is not ideal.
Hmm.
Um, but you're at home. So like to carry momentum from the Winnipeg game, you could say from the Jets game, obviously you lose a heartbreaker, but you play well. Carry it into Buffalo, this game against Buffalo, take care of business. You've got 2 days between that Capitals game because every other day they're playing essentially. Would be big to do that. Excuse me. And then you play the Penguins, and you've seen with Pittsburgh, just like Buffalo, you can play a good 20 minutes, and it's all you need. Like we've said just a second ago, you don't want to do that. It's
Yep.
not sustainable, it's not healthy, but it's possible, and hopefully you don't get into a situation where Alex Nedeljkovic can score a goalie goal against you. We'd much rather have it be the other guy. Um,
Joey
so
Oregon.
yeah, no, and I'll share that now. I think I can share that now. Because there's not a better place to do that. Um, because we've already kind of talked about the real change part of it, and I don't know how much we need to harp on it more because that's we just did that there. The morning of the Kings game, right? Went to morning skate. The skate itself was pretty standard. The only thing I'd say I took away from it was prior to it starting, really. Jessica Campbell had the main power play units together. They'll normally do this at practices. They'll have the special teams units practice before the other guys who aren't special teamers hit the ice. And they spent a good like 10, 15 minutes together working on the power play. And I don't believe they scored on the power play last night. Jade, I don't know if you remember that. I don't think so.
I don't
Um,
think
Nope.
so.
Kings got one, but they did not. But I told you that I looked over to you and I talked to you about this during the game. I was like, the puck movements there. Like that's what's frustrating to me is like, yes, you want to score more in the power play, obviously. But what I've heard Dan Bilesma say during the season as the head coach is the, the power play isn't all about scoring, which is will anger people, sure, but it's like it should help you build momentum and like continue momentum. And the Kraken were on the power play. What? Oh, just one time. Am I on the drugs? Crazy. Um, what hockey game am I thinking about? Wow. Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at the Jet score. Oopsie. Yeah, I was like, there was no way they were just on the power play once. There were too many penalties last night for that. Um, they go in the power play three times. And they had where are these? Yeah, they had two power plays in the first period. Like to score first and to have two power plays in the first period that actually had puck movement was really encouraging to me. Like you're dominating the pace of play, you're keeping the puck in the ozone. You obviously frustrated the Kings because there was that play where Kemper iced the puck down and had plenty of time to recover. And Oliver Bergstrand comes back. Kemper shoves him for no reason. Like it was a chippy
Yep.
game, sure, but that was just kind of weird. Um, I don't know. The puck movement is encouraging to me because we've seen it in stretches during this season where they don't get a shot off at all and they
Yep.
just kind of look stagnant. Like they didn't look like that last night. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I like seeing them actually show flashes. So
Hmm.
that's what I take from that. But the not more important than that. This is more silly than anything. Um, Joey heads off the ice first as the projected starter. Normally, the projected starter will practice on rink two with Steve Briere, and then leave the ice first. The other thing they do is they'll practice on the net that's closest to the 32 bar and grill. There's three main things that I look at, when I look at a projected starter, because some people just see the guy leave first, and that's not always the case.
Hmm.
Um, Joey's sitting in his locker room when we get media availability, and he's just RJ from Emerald City Hockey noticed this, and he talked about it on post game live they did after the Kings game. He's staring at one of the two TVs in the locker room, like intently. Not he's normally a very happy go lucky guy, somebody you can just talk to just off the rip. Um, not that morning. And he's staring at the screen and like there's two TVs on. One's on tennis, so he's not staring at tennis. Chandler Stevenson was. He was staring very intently at tennis. And I think I told Jade about this.
Yep.
I asked him, I was like, hey man, are you a big tennis guy? Just because of how focused he looked. He's like, no, not at all. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, there we go. Um, and he's just he was amazed. Essentially, what happened, he was amazed by the tennis players and how they can handle like how fast the serves are and keep the ball in on touch sighting, tight angles, that sort of thing. It's just like, I don't know. You're a pro
Which
athlete. I'm sure
it
if you put yourself to it, you could be decent. I don't know.
which that kind of blew my mind because I was like, you are a professional hockey player in the biggest league in the world, and you keep track of a teeny tiny little tiny rubber puck, and the thought of keeping track of a tennis ball baffles you. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah, a bright neon
That's
tennis
fine.
ball.
Yeah, bright green.
Like, I don't know. It is cool when pro athletes have respect for each other and their craft.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it was a funny conversation.
It
Like
was
I
silly.
couldn't not talk. The things I've talked to Chandler Stevenson about include tennis and Glorilla.
Glorilla.
Hmm. Yeah. So, oh,
Stay
but anyway,
tuned.
the other TV is Joey watching Nedeljkovic's goal, like essentially on repeat. I think NHL Network was just talking about it and he just locked into that. And then Gruby came into the room and he smiled really big and he stopped looking at the TV. And I remember we get into the post game. We talked to Mahura, we talked to Schwartz, and then we talked to Joey last. Um, and like how I view kind of silly questions, or maybe less serious ones, is I like to either pose them at the front to like lighten the mood, or keep like if after a win, just keep it rolling and have a good mood to begin the questions, or at the end when everyone's got their serious shit out of the way. And so I asked Joey, I was like, "Did you think about shooting it at any point?" Because I don't, the Kings had him an empty net for at least a minute or two, right?
Hmm.
There's plenty of time. And
Well,
he
even
was basically,
after Schwartz's empty net goal, they still didn't send their goalie back in, which I
oh yeah.
found a little bit shocking. But
I'm like, okay,
anyway,
dude, go for it.
yeah.
It was like more chances. And Joey like kind of just dumped it down at the very end, and I was like, oh. But I asked him, I was like, did you think about shooting? And he said, oh, 100%.
Hmm.
And I remember talking to him after the scrum ends, uh, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I saw you watching that TV this morning." He was like, "Oh, well, of course I knew about it." 80, like he goes like 84 people tagged me in it as soon as it happened. And I was like, "Well, yeah, I." So he knows. He knows these
Yep.
things. Um, okay, we'll get out of the
Chronically
nonsense.
online.
Uh, yeah, we'll keep that one. We'll keep
Yep.
that one for now. Um, Jade, we'll talk about something that you have been very loud and very proud about, and for good reason, because they've been producing and look like the real, I don't know why my voice did this. The like first real and legitimate first line that the Kraken have had, arguably over their last 3 years. It's funny because like the other iterations I can think about of like a true first line have featured two of these players already.
Hmm.
Um, the Jaden Schwartz-Matty Beniers-Kaapo Kakko line has been just pretty remarkable. Since the team has acquired Kakko, I remember Jade was writing about it, and she goes, "Well, how long has Kakko been on that line?" And I was like, "I think they've had him with those two since he was acquired from the Rangers." Sure enough, he has been stuck there, and for good reason. Um, Jade, since this is your like magnum opus, I will leave you to it. Um, but yeah, talk to me about this 17-10-84 line and how productive they've been for Seattle, obviously accentuated by the Kings game last night.
I have started calling them hashtag the line. I haven't come up with a silly fun name for them yet, but stay tuned because I'm sure I will. Um, they are the most productive line that the Kraken have currently, and I am pulling up article performers. Nope, wait, hold on. Computer froze.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, they're the most productive line currently. They have, I think, Kakko's trailing Schwartz by like 2 points or something. Um, I don't know, the line just it's impressive. It's watching that line is like just magical. It's like the best way that I can describe it, honestly. And I have always been a Kakko truther, and that's something that I'm not quiet about. I love watching him. I've always enjoyed watching him play. Even when he was with the Rangers, and I'm supposed to be an avid New York Ranger hater, by the way. I'm a Philadelphia Flyer fan first, hater first, Philadelphia Flyer fan second. Um, so I'm supposed to not like the Rangers, but there's something about him that has always just blown me away a little bit. And watching him with the Kraken, it's been like magnetizing. I don't know. There's can't pull my eyes away from it, even if I'm watching at home, which there are times where, there's a game on at home and I'm doing 18 other things, cleaning the house, cleaning my room. writing, doing whatever, and I like have a game on in the background, I always it's like, okay, Kakko's on the ice, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so I like pull my attention away from whatever I'm doing, and um, this line just is killing it, and uh, I think I said this before a couple weeks ago. If I am Ron Francis, I am re-signing Kakko immediately, like as soon as possible. I don't really care what it takes. I'm making him a serious part of the future of the Kraken,
Yeah,
along with
and
Schwartz, but also in tandem with Beniers and his contract extension. I'm certainly keeping those three around for as long as I possibly can.
that makes sense. The one thing I was gonna say, and it might go a little against part of what you said, is like if Seattle seriously does retool this
Hmm.
off season or at some point, like they can move on from a Jaden Schwartz and probably get something. Probably get a good amount just because of the leader that he is, the experience he has. He's won a cup. He's obviously producing. Like seeing how
Yeah.
much of a tear he's been on from. I wonder if I'm gonna look this up actually while I talk about this, but like how much of a factor he's been since the team returned from the holiday break. The two goals he had in Vancouver through now, right?
Hmm.
It's been massive. And like, so you've got production, you've got experience, you've got leadership. All of those stick out um, as things that make him valuable to any team that would trade for him. Uh, and like to go back to it, I think we talked about it last week. But to continue on it, like people were frustrated about the potential of losing Oliver Bjorkstrand via trade because of Friedman's reports, and I understand that he's not super old, he's not decrepit. Um,
There has been more talk over the past 24 hours about Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky going.
so there's where is he? He's 29.
Hmm.
Berkey's 29, so they're not super old. Bjorkstrand's under contract for this year and next year. The my big thing is like, why would you trade him? That's stupid. I'm like, well, you could again, like we talked about last week, like you and I have talked about, he has value. Like that is the biggest thing. He's not super young, like Beniers and Kakko, and that's why
Hmm.
that's why he's not. You ever hear in sports when certain players are untouchable? That's why he's not untouchable to me. Your
Yep.
untouchable list should be relatively short to an extent, unless you're like a dynasty or a clear contender, right? Because then you're not really like you lose the point of untouchable. It's like the word MVP or GOAT now, it just gets overused. Um, oh yeah, I
My
was gonna
biggest thing, I guess, with all of that is, I don't know, if I could have an untouchable, I could have somebody that I'm like, this whole thing is working really well. How am I going to recreate this with somebody different? How do I pull in any other player and put them in this exact situation and make them the exact player that Jaden Schwartz in this scenario is?
Oh, okay.
I guess is
Sorry, I
kind of,
found it.
I guess that's kind of where my brain goes.
Sure, that makes sense. More my point was, I went and looked at points from December 28th, I think is when they came back from the break, through now. And Jaden Schwartz is 10th in the league in points at 13, above guys like Kyle Connor, like, well, you might know who Travis Konechny is. Um, above Austin Matthews and his fat forehead. Yes, I know I have one too. Shut up. uh a bunch of like Scheifele, Gensel, Ehlers, like he's like a top 10, and James Schwartz is not normally a top 10 player in that regard. I want to say it
TK
was the
and Schwartz
28th,
have been on a tear this year
28th.
collectively for how old they are.
Where is he in terms of goals? Fifth most goals in that span. And then yeah, less on the assists, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, he's been a top 10 point producer since the break ended. My big thing is like because of his age, like if you do keep him, he's got what? a handful of years left per se, depending on how his body holds up. I mean, he's producing, yes, but is he going to be able to sustain that? Like Beniers and Kakko, those two have longevity on their side, is my point.
Hmm.
Um, like you can, and then going back to it, Dan Bylsma in preseason and camp, he said he doesn't really view. We talked about someone asked him about lines, right, and keeping lines together and how much he'll change them up. He says a great line normally has two players, and like in this situation, like currently, it would probably be Kakko and Schwartz are the two players on that in terms of production, right? But going
Absolutely.
like longevity, it should be Beniers and Kakko. Like we'll see, but it gives you like you that is optimism right there. Is that
And I
like
think that Beniers is working his way towards being that like producing piece of the line that they need, but just right now it's not he's not quite there yet. And I've talked a little bit about how he just offensively isn't producing the way that I expected him to this season. And that's been something that I've been pretty vocal about on Twitter, on here, everything. Just overall, Beniers has not been producing the way that I expected.
but then
And I
okay,
know
so
that lumps happen and, you know, bad years happen, whatever. Ever since Kakko came into the lineup, I have seen an offensive uh aspect to Beniers' game that I wasn't seeing previously.
so to that point though, since the break, on the Kraken at least, been oh Jesus Christ. Who are the top point producers since the break? Schwartz at 13 points, Kakko at 12, Chandler Stevenson at 8, Vince Dunn at 8, sure.
Go
And
Stevie.
then Matty Beniers at 7 with 5 goals in that span. We go back to when Kakko was traded on the 18th, right? Schwartz still leads, which is fascinating. Kakko is second, which is fascinating. Um, Matty Beniers, fifth still. So, yeah, that whole line has really produced since Kako got acquired. So that speaks volumes, obviously, you know, to Kako in his own play for being the second highest point getter since coming to Seattle. But also how I'm not calling him great right now, but great players typically elevate the play of those around them, right?
Hmm.
Like the NFL is on in the corner of my eye. Like great quarterbacks elevate the play of others around them, like so
What team are you watching?
the Buffalo uh
Bills.
Baltimore game is on right now.
No.
Our photographer Rio has Buffalo ties, so it'd be nice for this score to continue, but I don't know. Anyway, but yeah,
Boo
like
Rio, sorry.
you can see the evidence of the production here, whether it is
Yeah.
the tangible points or the fact that when you go on Money Puck here and you look at offensive lines, which you have done, and you look at expected goals percentage, the Kako line, the Kako line, the 17 10 84 lines at the top,
Hashtag
despite
the line.
only having 12 games played, and the next two highest have 29 games played.
Yep.
Like it's so, it's been
It's
pretty
impressive.
remarkable to watch that. Yeah, and even like I tried to look at it in the NHL as a whole. And what if I just I put it
When I
for
looked at it on
184
Money Puck,
minutes.
I think that they were like 68th or 86th or something like that
Yeah.
overall. There's like
But to that
584 lines or something.
Yeah, but to my point, with this, right, is like they've only been together for 12 games. You look at all these other ones and you see like the minimum is 24. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like there's a few others that are like that, that are lesser games. Like it's funny, you've probably already seen it, but what's one that's near the oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. I don't know if it's dyslexia. I was like, oh, Tippett Frost Michkov only has 12 games. No, that says 33. I was looking at the Boldy Rossi Zuccarello line. Well, oops. But yeah, no, I mean for them to just to be in this area, and to have just 12 games played is pretty remarkable to me. So I don't
Hmm.
know, like for that whole line, because again, in the past, um oh wait, no, I was wrong. I was going to say the one holdover from the other potential candidates for top lines is Matty Beniers, because if you looked at it in the past, McCann, Beniers, Eberle has kind of been their form of a first line, with how McCann has produced offensively in the past, um, and with how Eberle has produced on and off. Obviously, he's still exploded. Um, you know, so, Schwartz doesn't typically play with Beniers, but obviously they found something here and they found it with Kakko. So, yeah, I mean, I'd give the guy a contract of at least 3 years. Like you've
Yep.
got to be here, and they have the RFA on their side, and with how things have performed, um, I think I don't see why a deal wouldn't get done personally.
There
So
are a few things that I personally, sorry, Maverick is Mavericking. There are a few things that I would not move away to make a Kako long-term deal happen
mm,
if I'm Ron Francis.
mm. Wait, I'm
Like,
confused. What are you saying?
no, there are not many things. No. Yeah, there aren't many things that I like would avoid moving.
Oh,
Like I
oh,
would
oh,
move pretty much everything.
sure. Okay. I get it now. I was like, what
Sorry.
is like
Took me a second to
what's
get there, but yeah.
oh, you're good. Yeah, no, it's been pretty remarkable to watch that, you know, um and see their production and see the player that he's been. And again, when team the fan base of the team that you acquired a player from is pissed that the player you just got has been traded, it's typically a good sign. Um, and to give credit, like Seattle was upset as well, and Morgan has been starting for them, and like from what I've been aware of, seemingly getting solid minutes, and so hey, good for them, and they've been winning. So yeah, it seems like it's been beneficial, and that's kind of what I thought it would be. It seems like Borgen would get more minutes in New York, especially after they traded Truba to
Hmm.
Anaheim. I don't know why an Anaheim team that's young wants an old guy. I don't know. I still don't get what Verbeek was cooking there, but hey, I'm not him. Uh, and with Kako, it seemed like a forward that wanted more minutes, and with a team that really hasn't seen enough from any of their forwards until he got here, it made sense, and it's made sense for both teams since then. So I guess it's a win-win for now.
And
Um,
a lot of I was final piece. A lot of I tweet about the Kako line a lot, obviously. Um Most of the likes when that happens are Rangers fans, which I love it. I'm all here for it, but it is funny that we have this player now and it's still just Rangers fans that are looking into how their player is doing, and I totally get that because I do the same thing with Borgen every so often where I'm like, "Hey, how's Will doing?" Whatever. It just is funny that it's mostly Rangers fans that are all over the likes.
yeah, that's oh, okay. Sorry, thought I heard something.
No,
So we'll move on
also
here.
Maverick is just right next to my microphone,
There he
making
is.
so much
Cameo,
noise.
cameo appearances.
Come on.
Um, Something that I didn't know if we'd ever talked about this season was, well, first of all, just Josh Mahura plainly. Um, but his play, I mean, he was solid leading into the trade that Seattle made to acquire Kako. Obviously since Will Borgen's gone, um,
Yep.
Josh Mahura takes that spot. I mean, he's played well, and it's been accentuated the agendas here, as you can see, the line, as Jade would say.
Hmm.
And then Josh Mahura, because it was funny to look down last night and see Josh Mahura blow up Warren Fogle and then have Quentin Byf. If you watch the play, like Fogel's on the ground, and then three King skaters go to attack little old Josh Mahura, and it leaves it 2-0-1. It was like this complete lack of awareness. Like it was a clean hit. There was no whistle blown. So I don't know why it was like, okay, let's end the play. I'm like, they're still going. Like the Kraken are through the neutral zone. They are
Yep.
gone. So I mean, lack of awareness there, which is funny to me, at least. But you know. So I mean, he makes that play, and that's a big play. One because the Kraken haven't been physical, and if you listen to the radio crew or I think the Emerald City folks talked about it on their post game live as well. But like to set the tone there physically against the Kings team that's much bigger than you, and you're one of the smallest teams in the league. You get pushed around. Um, oh, and it's funny. Oh, great! This feeds the agenda. Um, because I'm looking here on Money Puck at defensive pairs, at least for the Kraken specifically. And the expected goals percentage, top four are Dunn Larson, Dunn
Hmm.
Montour. Those both make sense. Evans Borgen, which Riker Evans is the trend with the next two because it's Evans Borgen and then Evans Mahura at 48.1%. And Evans Mahura has 15 less games than Evans Borgen. So again, smaller sample size per se, but encouraging to see. Um, and I'll poke around more as I go around. But oh well, and then that's tough. But the Alexiak Mahura combination is tied for the least expected goals against, but they've only been around for 10 games. So
I was gonna say that's
um
surprising.
so but that kind of bless you. I think if that's
Thank
what
you.
that was.
Yeah.
Um that goes to talk about how he's performed recently, and I'll look up his hockey stat card too. Has I don't know if it's a has. I think it's like statement of fact that Josh Mahura has played into Seattle, bringing him back at least into next season. Like he hasn't been playing well enough to say, "Wow, we really got something here on a guy that was going to be a depth signing to be Brandon Montour's little buddy from Florida." Like he's not that. He's not a transformational defenseman, and you've already got Dunn, Montour, and Larson ahead of him, and Alexiak, but those three specifically just should be teams, teams, defensemen above him for years to come, right?
Yep.
Um. Oh, hello. Does Hockey Stat Cards has him listed as his full name. I didn't realize we were going government on Joshua Mahura here. Um.
Joshua.
Yeah, his numbers still aren't great. Um.
Um,
At least in the charts, though, he's trended up. His game score has trended up. His moving average has trended up. His impact above average has trended up. Um, so it's not bad. His game scores have been good. He had a great game score against Buffalo. He had a positive one in Detroit, positive one in Pittsburgh, kind of bare average in Winnipeg, and then a +1 game score in the Kings, all of them going up. He had negative game scores from Utah to New Jersey, and then he's gone positive. He's gone at least bare minimum. He had bare minimum in Columbus and then Winnipeg, or positive in all of them since. So he's trended up. I don't know, Jay. What do you think about Josh lately? Because, like I just said, and we talked about it before we started, they've played. I think he's played well enough to at least sign another league minimum, or maybe just a pay raise above that through next year.
so I was talking to a friend about this earlier and how just, I don't know, this is another, if I'm Ron Francis, I'm probably signing him at least one more year. I'm doing one more just solid year, and I think right now he is uh 775,000. So I'm probably doing another year at like 1 million, honestly. Maybe a little bit less than that, but about 1 million. Um, And just seeing where he can go from there. He, since Borgen has left the team, it seems like he defensively has kind of exploded. Like he's just been doing so much better defensively, and you're seeing more of the typical defenseman uh actions and behaviors and stuff from him. And I that has to mean something where we have a team where the top three defensemen are done, Larson and Montour. We need a little bit more from that. So I think that Mahura is maybe giving that a little bit more. And I don't know. I think that it's worth entertaining.
Yeah, and I think around that range is about fair. Maybe a mil 975K,
Yeah.
just a bump. Be like, hey, we saw what you did. Obviously he has to continue that. I mean, if he falls off a
Hmm.
complete cliff through the end of the year, then maybe not. But like, I'm not worried like I am about the forward prospect pool, about your older guys holding up spots for them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the Stevenson contract, again, I know that we've had listeners of the pod say like about other pods, they don't like hearing about consistently complaining about the contracts. I understand that. And that's fair and that's valid. Um, but like an aspect of Chandler Stevenson being signed for so long is that, obviously you've got Shane Wright and Matty Beniers, two centers who should be in your lineup for years to come, right? In an ideal world, those guys help you win cups. Uh, you draft Berkeley Catton, eighth overall this past year. He plays up the middle. He's having I mean, the Chiefs, Spokane and the Chiefs are having a great stretch of games right now where they had multiple games and double digit goals, which is fascinating. Um, Ideally, I mean, he signed his ELC during camp this year.
Hmm.
So like he's on contract under contract for you for 3 years. He's got this one in Spokane right now. Ideally, he goes to the AHL next season, and then in a year, the third year of that he'll maybe knock on the door again. Maybe he has a meteoric rise. Are you have playing him as a 4C? I hope not. He's way more skilled than to be a fourth line center. So what do you do with Chandler? Do you one of the other centers on a wing? Do you move Shane to a wing? Do you move Catton to a wing? Right? Like Catton's game this year has been, as far as I'm aware, has been assists. He's a distributor, right? Are you putting that on the wing? I ideally not. Like that's where that gums up. There are other issues gumming things up on the forward line.
Hmm.
Um, So that's like I'm that's why all to say I'm not worried about the defensive um side of things because your next D-man up really should be a Ville Otavainen, uh maybe a Ty Nelson. Gustav Olofsson and Cale Fleury have been here. They are not the future. Like they're not. They're guys who are gonna be career AHLers, guys who are gonna hang around, press box guys, or yeah, you know what I mean? Like the time for them to be a prospect or potential future guy is gone. Like that's the unfortunate reality of it. You're looking more at an Ottavine and Ty Nelson down the line if he can hang on, not hang on, if he can like add some thickness or find a way to make his game matter as a D man at his size. You know what I mean? Because he's a smaller guy.
Hmm.
Um, So, like, but none of those, I don't like Otavainen could play right now. I think I don't know how productive he would be, but I think he could play right now. Um, but yeah, your guys aren't really in the. You've got other prospects, yes, but they're in the WHL. You're not making the jump from the W to here, you know.
Yep.
And none of like unless they were extravagant, and they're not. Yeah, Maxime Lejoie is not. Oh gosh, because then you've got the guys who they signed for depth and Lejoie and Nicolas Brouillard. Can't say his name. It's those three. There's like three veterans, like three HL guys, and Lejoie, Brouillard, and Fleury, and then there's Ty Nelson and Gustav Olofsson. Like, yeah, your young D men are Otavainen and Nelson. Um, and they're probably not gonna be ready. Yeah. Oh, geez. Otavainen was born in 2002. Jesus Christ. Wow, that's
That's a
crazy.
baby.
Ty Nelson was born in 2004.
That's also a
Uh,
baby.
so you see what I'm saying though? They're not gonna be
Yeah.
ready for a full-time NHL role next year.
Yep.
I don't think so. Like some of these guys, we'll probably see some Firebirds um at the end of this season, just with how things are going. Like they did with Logan Morrison last year. Obviously Shane had stints. Oh yeah, Wentz came up too. Um,
I
like
think
it
that we
just
are just about hitting the point in the season where it's going to be a little bit more consistent seeing Firebirds rotating in and
just
out,
to
whether
give
it's
him a
in the
look.
press
Yeah,
box and, playing in 4 games and then sitting in the press box for 5 games. I think that we're about to the point of the season, especially with where we are in standings, that we're going to see a little bit more
especially
rotation.
just to get them around the NHL lifestyle, like
Hmm.
see how it looks. I know one of our Twitter followers named Sean thought that after the World Juniors, maybe see Edward Chalet, and I was like, I mean, I thought that might be too much of a jump right now. Like yes, he built a lot of confidence and he's played well with the Firebirds since then, and it's exactly what I'd hoped. I think when we talked about the juniors on the show was that Edward Chalet builds confidence at the World Juniors. I mean, you saw it. He was smiling. He was posting on Twitter after like
Hmm.
every game. He had a blast. He performed really well. Like that was great for him, and I think that'll be great for him. But like right now, like he's this year's big for him because last year, if you read the reports or you know the reports, like he struggled in Bar A with the Colts, and then before getting traded to Kitchener to join Carson Rakoff and the Rangers, because he had trouble being away from home. Uh, he was having trouble, fitting in, all that sort of stuff. It was difficult for him. This year in CV, he's been living with Alex Steshka, like who's kind of is a fellow countryman. He's showing him the ropes. Like that's a big deal for him, and to make him feel comfortable. And this year it'll be a big rebound for him after what happened last year and how it was just kind of a down year after Seattle drafted him, unfortunately. Um, so, you know, just yeah, I think we're gonna get to that point. We can see some guys like a Jacob Mallinson who's kind of like John Hayden, but younger, get in your face, be a pest, but also kind of has a sneaky offensive side to his game. I don't know if we see Yanni Newman. Yanni Newman's played really well. Second leading scorer on the Firebirds. Probably see maybe some more Logan Morrison. I'd be interested to see how much run maybe they give Wentz again after having him here on and off, right? Um, I don't think we'd see Jagger Firkus just because he's still smaller on the
I
smaller
agree.
side, and I don't want him to get squished by like Tyler Myers. I would really not want that to happen.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, oh, who's this Daniel Sprong guy? Like a Jacob Mallinson. Yeah. Poor David Goyette struggled this year. Fascinating. That's talk for a Firebird show. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's my point is that to go back to the original thing, there's not a D-man that like Riker Evans last year, who you knew could make the jump, who was young. Like you're not holding up spots by bringing back a Josh Mahura. You won't. And
Hmm.
even then, what if they do move Alexiak? Then you need another D-man, whether it's Olofsson, Fleury, or an Altavainen. You know what I mean? So, and they sent Olafson down today.
Yep.
So, not sure what that's about. Yes, you'll be at home, but feels kind of weird. So, I don't know. Like Jaden and I talked about before the show, in basically to summarize it, is you always be curious. So, we'll see. But yeah, so we'll look at the week ahead. We've kind of talked about it already, but yes, two of the next three games, all of them within the calendar week because they play on Saturday and not on Sunday, and then they play a back-to-back on Monday, Tuesday. So we'll do the show before then. Buffalo and Sabres at 1 o'clock on the 20th. Obviously, we've seen them pretty recently. It's been pretty fascinating to think about the Kraken playing them just because of how much the Sabres have struggled this season, including the big losing streak, and then they start winning games and deciding that they're good again. Um, so there was that, which was interesting. And then the Kraken go down to them and mount this wild comeback. Um, yeah, so since the Kraken game, they beat the Canes, which okay, but then lost by 3 to Pittsburgh. And this game will represent the first of a back-to-back for them as Buffalo plays Seattle on Monday and then goes to Vancouver on Tuesday, goes on a little Pacific Division road trip as they play Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and then Edmonton. So we've got that, which again, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Jayd, this should be a game that they should play a full 60 minutes, show that there is something to them in recent form and that this is tangible and that they can sustain it. Because then on
Hmm.
Thursday, you've got the Capitals. Obviously they're a team that's atop the league in terms of standing
Yeah.
points. Alex Ovechkin is getting closer and closer to that old bastard's record. Um, you know, uh, that's a scary game. Like it's always been interesting when they come here because
Hmm.
one of the first things that RJ from Emerald City Hockey talked to me about, as I learned hockey in the inaugural season, was the Ovi spot and just how that
Oh
man.
God.
We're gonna stand again for this. I don't know if I'm gonna stay in the picture, but we're gonna just don't hit lights. That's a great idea. It's just how he sits there waiting in his spot and even just kind of stands. He actually just kind of stands there menacingly. So just that was
Menacingly.
one of the first things I learned about was just seeing that man in the dot on a power play. So I'd like to avoid giving them power play minutes, but yeah, we look at the Capitals here. Oh Jesus, they're on a win streak, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I kind of
Well,
focused out for a second on the Edmonton, Anaheim, San Jose.
yeah,
I
because
know
that's a big
that's
stretch
not
too.
this week, that's next week, but that's what I like. You saw me looking down. That was me like, okay, cool. That's a nerve-wracking sequence to happen.
Yeah. Um,
Which
just
again, I know that's
remarkable.
looking forward quite a bit, but that's
Yeah,
yeah.
well, and that goes back to the point of momentum, right? If you can take two of the,
Hmm.
you should reasonably take two of the next three, right? Ideally, that's Buffalo, Pittsburgh, but maybe you do pull a surprise and you get Washington. And then I'd argue if you get Washington, you need to win the third one just because it's
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and a far inferior opponent. Um, yeah, no, Washington's won their last four. They play Edmonton on Tuesday. They're also on kind of a Pacific Division road trip because they play Edmonton on Tuesday, us on Thursday, Vancouver Saturday. They get 2 days off, and then they play Calgary on the Tuesday after that.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, they've been on kind of a heater. They won what? One, two, three, four, five. They won five of their last six, seven of their last nine. Yeah, Jesus Christ. And then Pittsburgh. And then you look at Pittsburgh on Saturday. Um, and they played Pittsburgh. Edmonton is the one game where they go on the road on the 27th there. Um, I almost typed Pittsburgh Pirates. My brain is on baseball. As painful as it is, I miss it. They play Pittsburgh, yeah, and then they go to Edmonton on the 27th. Is the one road game and the nine of the next 10. Um, Pittsburgh, since losing to Seattle on Tuesday, beat the Sabres, yeah, by 3, and then lost to Washington. Wow, so all these teams they're playing recently have seen each other. So yeah, they've lost what? Currently, they've lost. Oh Jesus. Oh wow. I always want to take sample sizes, but then I
Hmm.
keep seeing the trend, and I'm like, let's look at the whole month. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So of their last not the 9 games they've played in the month of January, they've lost 7 of them. Wow. Okay. They'll play the Penguins play the Kings on Monday in Los Angeles. Yeah, they go on this little road trip. Not little. They play the Kings on Monday. They play the Ducks on Thursday. They play Seattle on Saturday. They go to San Jose the next Monday, and they go to Utah. the hockey club on the Wednesday after that
Utah.
before returning home. So, I mean, you again, like I just said, you should win two of the next three in Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Getting a
Mhm.
point out of the Washington game would be a win, but I don't feel super confident in it. But hey, again, if anything, the last three games mean anything, and this is a legitimate trend, anything's possible. Um,
Stranger
so
things have happened.
yeah. So do you have any words on the week ahead?
Nothing specific. Good luck.
Yeah, jeez. So I don't
That's
know.
it.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, in terms of like, I don't mean to leave the injuries out of it and Eberly and Gord, but I mean like outside of um there hasn't been much outside in terms of updates. Like Yanni hasn't hit the ice yet. Ron Francis was on the Kraken Hockey Network, and he said, he's still a few weeks out. Um, and Jordan Eberle is a few weeks out from on ice work, and they said they might see him at the end of February. Um, so and I'll quickly touch on it because we were talking about this pregame, Jade and I, but I don't imagine that Seattle can do anything with Yanni Gord because he's been in rumors about a trade. There was the rumor linking him to Toronto because they need a center. Sorry, not a C. They have one in Big Head Matthews. Um, a lot of teams would want Yanni Gord, but until he is anywhere close to hitting the ice, I don't think it matters for
Yeah.
now. So I don't I'm sure that doesn't help for some people to calm their nerves, but it's something. So
I
yeah,
also, I'm going to interject a little bit. I
sure.
am of the belief that if your favorite player is in any sort of trade talks and there's any sort of rumbling around them, be prepared for the worst.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. That's my unprofessional opinion. Just be prepared. Start preparing to mourn a little bit, but also, I don't know. There with no timeline on his injury, there's no I just don't see him being traded with no timeline.
Not recent, not nearly. I mean, if anything,
Yeah.
it would be closer to the deadline, and
Yeah.
who
Which we
knows,
still have
maybe
roughly 7 weeks until the deadline. Just for everyone's knowledge, it's about 7 weeks to go. So there's still a lot of time, but also if you're worried about your favorite player being traded, prepare early. It makes it so much easier.
yeah. I
That's
just
not reassuring at all.
no.
You're just gonna stress everyone out.
Do you want me to do it with everyone else? Should I speak
No.
to the class here?
Well,
Hello. Hello.
no.
Yeah. No, I don't. Great. I almost knocked them all over. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's a
Anyways,
good
that
time
is
to end it.
my professional opinion is be prepared for your favorite player to be traded, but also there's still quite a few weeks until we have the trade. We as a collective group have the trade deadline to happen. So
Yeah. I'm not
also
worried
kind of
about it
everyone
at this
take a deep
time.
breath. Let the deep breath go.
Yeah.
Inhale,
Like
exhale.
as
It's
Jade
gonna be
says with a
okay.
Michelob Ultra. So that'll end this show.
It's gonna be fine.
Three home games on tap for you. And then we're in the second middle week of the month of February. Yeah. Then by the time we talk to you next week, it will be the end of the month of January. So yeah, a lot of things can happen in three games. Can Seattle build momentum and kind of build off of the last three games and how they've played and how they've looked? Uh, that's the hope. We'll see. Until we see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Be
Go
well.
birds.
Sure. Uh, and do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all those Kraken away games?
Kraken away games, making a push. I was thinking of coming here just because Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, only if that's okay with you.
I mean, I love that idea. Hope to see you here.